Yeah.
Now, Ritesh to take over.
I'm happy to see Sachi Chaudhary in this.
Yes. Good morning, sir.
Very
Good
good
morning.
morning. Very good.
Good morning, everybody. All my respected seniors. Today we are privileged to have Sir with us. Sir needs no introduction. Well, for even to try introducing him will be totally not required and irrelevant. So without any delay, I request Sir himself to tell us something about how he joined the IRS and also about his stint in the Election Commission. We are very eager to hear about that, sir. Some anecdotes, please, sir.
Okay, actually, when I was a young boy, I believe I used to say that I will join only the civil service. But in spite of that, I started my career in a bank, actually as a probationary officer in Bank of India Limited. But even so, I wrote the civil service exam. And very unfortunately, when I gave the application for civil service, uh, my original center was supposed to be was Madras because I was working as a probationary officer in Bank of India. But suddenly I was transferred to Bombay, the head office. So I had to change my center. And the beauty of it was that in Bombay, every day the center was changing. With the result that one of the exams I went late by almost by half an hour, with the threat of being prevented from entering the hall. But fortunately, the invigilator allowed me to get in. It is not an excuse for my missing my IAS because probably, as they say, there is a divinity that saves our ends, rough you what we will. I think I was destined to be in income tax service, and that's how I came into the service. And I missed my IAS by 4 marks. And my mother wrote a letter to me saying that you will do better than the IAS. Don't worry about it. Don't give too much of importance to this IAS. And true to her words, I think in retrospect, I can say I did better than some of my IAS colleagues.
Definitely, sir. Definitely, that you did, sir. Sir, before coming to Election Commission and all, since we started with you as a IRS officer, I want to inform everyone that sir was also DG in NADT, and it was sir who started the 5-day week concept of in NADT. That was very much like all of us took it for granted, but it was sir who started it.
That
Anything
was
about sir, sir?
that's an interesting anecdote. Actually, I
Sir.
was holding additional charge as I was Chief Commissioner Bombay, holding additional charge of NADT. When I went there, Mr. Mahadev Shastri, the late Mr. Mahadev Shastri, told me that one of my predecessors, I don't want to mention his name, he had said that the probationers should not have 2-day weekends. So on Saturday, they should be asked to attend some work. And he did not want the weekend to be for 2 days. So Mr. Mahadev Shastri told me that this has not gone well with the probationers. And since the predecessor had returned to the board saying that he was not giving the 2-day weekends to the probationers, he said that has to be changed and we have to write a letter to the board for changing it. Then I asked him, when did he send that letter? Mr. Mahadev Shastri told me that it was sent about 6 months back. I said, bring the file. I got the file, I wrote myself. The board has not found time to take a decision on this. And as far as I am concerned, I'm more than convinced that the probationers can have the 2-day weekend. And there is no point in forcing them to attend lectures or classes. But if they are free or they are on their own will, if they want to go to library and things like that, it is a different matter. Like any other civil servant, let them also have the free weekend. And I put an end to it. But what is interesting was that after 2 or 3 months, I believe the board convened a board meeting to consider the cancellation of this 2 days weekend. And Mr. Mahadev Shastri told me that he went and attended the told them that I had taken the decision and I have revoked the earlier decision. And there was no need for board to consider it at all. So that's how it happened. Somehow there are some people who thought that probationers should not have that kind of a freedom. Whether it is right or wrong, it's beside the point. I think what is necessary is to nurture our young officers with the thought that they should have the freedom to do what they want to do and provide motivation for doing certain things in the interest of the service.
Absolutely, sir. In fact, because today's probationer is tomorrow's commissioner, and hopefully even more. Sir, what about you as a probationer, sir? Any anecdotes about that? About you as a probationer?
You see, the classes used to be held in the Assembly Guest House 2, which was the training college in 1964-65. And Mr. Badami was our IAC training at that time. What was important was that, the lectures used to be taken by both outsiders and the departmental people. I was very attentive of Mr. Badami's lectures because it used to be very interesting. And I remember that during our period, the 49 ITR was the most famous ITR, and some very interesting cases used to be cited. I used to read only 49 ITR. As far as the exam is concerned, Mr. Lakshmi Narayana, my batchmate, was the topper of our batch. He used to discuss other case laws in the dining hall, both at the breakfast and lunch table. And I used to grasp whatever he was telling in the lunch hall. And when we wrote the exam, the first departmental as well as the second departmental, I passed it in the first attempt. Unfortunately, Mr. Lakshmi Narayana is probably more intelligent and brighter than me. He had to depend on carryover marks to get his income tax law paper cleared. So that's an interesting anecdote. So I always tell the probationers, don't read too much of technical details. You understand the grasp of the subject, understand the purpose of the income tax law enforcement, and try to use as much common sense as possible when you write your answers in the exam hall. There was another incident. Mr. Lakshmi Narayana, who was my batchmate, he had written an exam in which he wrote both sides of the paper. In those days, we are not supposed to write on the both sides of the paper. Only one page has to be used. By mistake, he had written on both sides. And he was, the invigilator said, I will not take note of your answers. And he was asked to rewrite, and he did that. Very fortunately, of course, he's a very bright officer. He was an earlier State Bank of India probationer, and he got through the exam all right. Another interesting anecdote was my Hindi exam. Mr. C.C. Ganapati was the director. So the papers, the account books were distributed. And when we were prepared to examining the books, some of them could understand because some of them were really Marwari books. Though the exam was supposed to be Marwari, but the account books are supposed to be for scrutiny in Hindi. So some of us could not really understand. So the director, Mr. Ganapati, came to the examination hall and said, if you are not comfortable with the paper, with the books supplied to you, you have a right to change the books. So if you want to change the book, do it, so that don't waste your time. So this was immediately a hint that was given to us. So we immediately changed our book and then got through the Hindi paper. But the interview was more even interesting. There was one Mr. Sharif, who was the IAC in the Nagpur range. And he was asking me a question. I still remember very vividly. His knowledge of Hindi also was not very soundproof, I would say. He asked me, what is the gender of the pencil? I said, sir, pencil's gender must be feminine, I said. He said, how are you so confident? I said, I have got a general rule to follow. If in doubt in Hindi, make it feminine. And it proved to be correct. And I got the answer and I passed my Hindi test with just 90 marks, that is 60%. So obviously, I was allowed to pass. But these are all interesting anecdotes in those days when we didn't have much of facility of, preparing for the exam, etc. I must say the NADT is very well organized now. And I think the probationers are much more well trained than the difficulties we had.
Thank you, sir. Sir, like you went up to the post of Chief Election Commissioner, and that too at a time when the country faced general elections. Any anecdotes, sir, about your stint as Election Commissioner and Chief Election Commissioner?
Well, as Election Commissioner, we had a lot of challenges. The one I would mention very important because this related to Bihar election. And Mr. Lalu Prasad Yadav was contesting in a constituency called Chapra. And there were a lot of complaints about certain irregularities in the constituency. And what we did was, after due inquiries, we had countermanded the election. Generally, elections are not countermanded. It is a final Brahmastra which is used. So at that time, we had to cancel the election. And Mr. Abdul Kalam was the president. So he had invited us for a discussion on this subject. But what we had done even before meeting him was to put the order of the Election Commission on the website, which had a very comprehensively well-written order explaining all the circumstances, how are the irregularities committed, etc. Certain decisions had to be taken by us because some of the records of the Election Commission or the polling stations, etc., we had to reopen in the night to see whether there were irregularities as alleged. And we sent a team of 3 or 4 officers. They went and saw it. There were irregularities, I think, in the booths. Before the election was concluded, in some of the booths, bogus persons were allowed to exercise their vote. And we found bogus names there. Signatures were bogus. So we cancelled the election and countermanded the election. And the self-contained and very well-organized, well-written order was praised by Mr. Abdul Kalam. And I think that was one of the high points of our conduct of elections in Bihar. In fact, in the Delhi airport, when I was catching a flight, a porter was asking me, "Sir, did you conduct the Bihar elections?" I have mentioned it in my book. I said, "Yes, we conducted the elections." He said, "For the first time in Bihar, there was a reasonably free and fair election." So that was, I thought, the best tribute I got from a porter in the Delhi airport. Then there was another incident which probably you may be interested. Mr. Om Prakash Chautala was the Chief Minister of Haryana, and his Director General of Police was one Mr. Malik. He was an IPS officer. His wife was contesting on the ruling party's election, constituency's election. And we had advised the Chief Minister to transfer him from the post of DGP because his residence was being used for political purposes. The Chief Minister openly challenged me and attacked me personally, saying that I had no business to give such advice. And in Chandigarh, when the press was interviewing me, the press asked me, "How is it that the Chief Minister is challenging and you are not reacting to it?" Then I told him, "Wait for a day or two." The pressman, I told him, "Wait for a day or two, you will get the necessary action taken." So I called the Chief Secretary. There was one Mr. Ravi Ahuja. I told him, "Please kindly tell your Chief Minister, if he is not going to transfer the Director General of Police from the post, I will have to postpone the election in Bathinda, where the DGP's wife was contesting the election." The next day, the Chief Minister transferred him and asked for a new person to be appointed. The Governor of Haryana tried to influence me in appointing a new DGP because he said, "You select this person." So I told him, "I'm sorry, we will not be able to go by your decision. We will go by our own reports. We will select one of the 3 persons recommended for the DGP's post." So these are some of the interesting anecdotes when, we do not have much of a support from any person except the constitutional authority. And I must say that the first election, when it was conducted by Mr. Sukumar Sen, that was probably the high watermark of the Election Commission. There are many problems, and I would like to pay a high tribute to him. He deserves Bharat Ratna. Somehow he has not been given. And the first 2 elections without much of a problem, although there was no, adverse publicity, adverse media, or adverse political parties. I think the way in which he conducted the elections, it needs to be recognized, and he must be honored properly.
Thank you so much, sir. Indeed, extremely challenging, extremely interesting. And sir, one point related to this is you have worked in various areas. You're one of the few officers who's worked in various areas. Now, sir, definitely there would be some inter-services prejudices and rivalry. Not definitely, probably. How can it be handled, sir? How can it be handled?
You see, particularly when I was Secretary, Department of Company Affairs, which I joined in 1997, there were some IAS officers working under me. And I can mention the names because that's all in praise of those officers. There was one Mr. L.C. Goel from Kerala Kada, who later on became Home Secretary and all that. In fact, he came and told me, sir, when you joined, we thought there might be a prejudice against the IAS officers who are working under you. On the other hand, I would like to tell you that you have probably protected us more than an IAS officer secretary, because there are certain complaints against Mr. L.C. Goel. I mean, because in Department of Company Affairs, there used to be a lot of complaints coming against officers for decisions taken, etc. So I used to defend all the officers, and particularly Mr. Goel was one of the straightforward officers. I had no doubt about that, and I had defended him to the hilt. I had to send a report to the Home Secretary, to the Department of Personal Secretary, and so on. And he was no harm was done to him, because some people were threatening to take action against him. So similarly, there were a number of instances when I was in the Election Commission, and I believe, I don't know how far it is true, I believe there was some reservation in the minds of my other colleagues at that point of time as to how I will handle the IAS officers who are chief secretaries or chief electoral officers and so on. But what is more important in these things is not to be prejudiced against anyone, have an open mind, and be nice to them. And although there were a few officers who may not have, who have some prejudice against the other services, other central services, I would say by and large, if you are fair, they come to recognize, they come to realize that, other services officers are also competent and they deserve to be recognized. I will tell you again, when I was the Chief Commissioner of Income Tax Bombay, I was handling the most important, powerful business group of Bombay. I don't have to mention the name. And there were some attempts made to dislodge me from that post. And the finance minister was Mr. Manmohan Singh. And they went and told him that I was probably doing more scrutiny of their cases than what was warranted. And the chairman CBDT was also not happy with me. So, but fortunately, the Revenue Secretary defended me, saying that whatever action has been taken has been in accordance with law. And I defended my Deputy Commissioner as well as my Commissioner. Mr. SNL Agarwal was the Commissioner, and my Deputy Commissioner was Mr. Mr. Wahidul Khan. I forget the exact name. And the chairman asked me to come to Delhi to explain what action has been taken in this group. And I went there. I was made to wait for an hour. Obviously, I was not happy with my handling of the cases. And when I entered the room, he charged me, saying that you are going to be sued for damages. You are going behind some of the promises given by the government in inquiring into the international bonds floated by the government at that time. And he said, you are not fair to the group. I told him, I'm surprised that the chairman of the Central Board of Directors should make this statement. After all, I thought you will give some credence to the officers who are working under you. And I would like to say that my officers have done an excellent job, and I would like to support them. And whatever action they have taken, they have done it with my approval and with my knowledge. And I have no reasons to doubt the legality of the action taken. And he started dictating the minutes of the meeting. And I told him, sir, you are not correct in reporting the minutes of the meeting. Then he got so much annoyed with me, and he said, you can dictate the minutes. I dictated the minutes. I think Mr. Agarwal, SNL Agarwal and Mr. Hassan, Mr. Hassan, they were witness to all these proceedings. And they came and told everybody what happened in the room. So it is what is very important in the service is to be fair and neutral. And if you are neutral, I know there will be challenges, there will be difficulties, there will be rivalry within the service as well as rivalry from outside the service. But so long as you do not join a clique within the office or outside the office, and if you are keeping a reasonable distance, you have nothing to fear. And I have had no problem. For example, when I was going to Ethiopia on an IMF assignment, I had a doubt. Some people told me that the secretary's panel was being made. And I went to Mr. Manmohan Singh and I told him, sir, this is what I am told. I'm not sure whether I should go to Ethiopia or not. He said, why do you have a doubt? Don't you go and meet the cabinet secretary? It was Mr. Surendra Singh, one of the finest officers I have come across. And I rang him up and said, can I come and meet you, sir? And at that time, I was additional secretary expenditure. And he said, just give me, what is it about? Then I told him I got an offer from IMF to go to Ethiopia for 6 months. And I understand that the secretary's panel is being formed. I'm not sure whether I should go or not. Then he said, give me a couple of days. I'll call you back. Then after a couple of days, he called me and said, in fact, we finalized the secretary's panel only yesterday. You are in the panel, but you may have 4 to 5 months to take. So if you want, you can go on the assignment for 4 months. So what I wish to say is, if your reputation is well established, nobody can stop your becoming secretary or you're becoming any other constitutional authority. And I went to Ethiopia after 4 months. The cabinet secretary had changed and I was appointed as Secretary Department of Company Affairs. And I came back and joined. So so long as you are in a neutral position, don't take any support from any politician. One of the things I want all the young officers to realize is politicians are dangerous friends, whichever party they belong to. You have to keep a distance, and if you keep a distance, they also respect you. Because I have seen the politicians who try to force decisions. I had a minister with whom I had a regular fight, and when I was secretary in the Department of Company Affairs. It came in the newspapers, it came in Sunday magazine, it came in Economic Times. And what I wish to say is there are many incidents where I had to oppose. I told him I cannot carry out this order. Give me instructions in writing. If you give the instructions in writing, then I'll implement it. Otherwise, I will not do it. So one night at 11 o'clock, the minister rang me up and said, you have not implemented the order I gave to you. I said, I've sent you the file. Have you not had a look at it? And he said, yes, I've had a look at it. For 3 pages, you have argued against that order. I said, yes. And did you not read the last sentence in my note? If in spite of the above, the minister desires to implement these orders, he may kindly give directions, which will of course be implemented. Then he said, how can I give directions when you have written so much against it? I said, it is up to you. You have to make up your mind. If you think your orders are justifiable, I can certainly implement it, but you have to give it in writing. Then he sent the file back without any endorsement. So these are the kinds of positions you have to face. Sometimes the politicians, sometimes colleagues, sometimes other departmental officers, other secretaries, in fact, in cabinet meetings, in committee of secretaries meetings, you have situations when you have to be bold enough to assert your views. And I have had a number of incidents when I had to differ. One of my IAS friends asked me, will you openly say that? What is the difficulty in saying that? We have reached a topmost position in the service. You have become a secretary. Why should you have any hesitation in saying that it cannot be done if it is wrong? And even the IAS officers, some of them, probably because of their association with the politicians in the states, they try to bend. There is no need to bend so long as it is, if it is a legally justifiable decision, you should take a decision without any hesitation. And you will find that the support will come from invisible sources, and you don't have to be afraid of anybody.
Thank you so much, sir. So, yes, sir, the key takeaway indeed is fairness and neutrality. Sir, can you just tilt your mobile or phone a bit? We can't see you properly. Yes, sir, now this is perfect. This is perfect. Yeah, okay. This is perfect now, sir. Sir, my next question is also related. It's also a difficult question. Sir, how difficult it is to be honest and efficient in civil services, especially revenue services? A tricky question, sir, please.
Efficient, there is no problem at all, because
yes,
most of us who are entering the service, they are above average, they are intelligent, they have exam. I see no difficulty in being efficient, but to be honest, it's certainly a big challenge. But I would say at least during the period when we served, we, except for a few handful of officers who are not probably clean, many direct recruit officers, they were able to show that they could stand up and take decision boldly. There are many incidents when sometimes senior officers will try to tell you, or even sometimes you are exposed to business people, they may like to influence your decision either directly or in a subtle manner. See, what we have to be very important is, as far as efficiency is concerned, we have to be absolutely sensitive to the people who come to you. I will tell you one or two incidents which I think will be good for the younger officers to bear in mind. You see, when I was holding charge as Commissioner of Income Tax Madurai from Chennai, the watchman, this is very simple method, but simple procedure. A watchman applied for a Provident Fund loan. My office put up a note saying that, this form, the application has been the wrong form, so we may reject it. So I wrote that there is no need to reject. The loan is sanctioned because I am holding additional charge. It will come back to me after 15 days or 20 days if he has to file a new form. At the time of disbursing the amount, you take a new form, grant the loan. If you are not going to grant his own money to be taken for a necessity, he is going to either beg, borrow, or steal. This is not the way to encourage our people. So I hereby sanction the loan, disbursement subject to a new form to be used. Very small incident. This is well within the powers of every one of us. There is no need for any authority. Similarly, remember, there was an incident. One handicapped man walked into my room and said, I have been denied my benefit of being the handicapped allowance to be given to me. I said, what happened? He said, my officer says that I have not filed the necessary certificate. I said, don't worry, what the officer has done is right, but I have a power under 264 to interfere and give you the necessary relief. So I said, I drafted a 264 petition for him. And I said, you pay this 25 rupees that has to be paid at that time. You come to me and take the refund order at 5 o'clock in the evening. I called the officer. I am giving you written direction that I have personally seen this person as a handicapped person. There is no need for a certificate to authenticate this, and the amount can be, and the refund, whatever is due to him, can be given. Here again, it's a very, very small incident. It is a humane touch to the problems that you face. There have been a number of cases where humaneness has been missing in the government service. I will say it is not confined only to income tax. There are many instances where I have seen the officers don't meet people. You must, when somebody wants to meet you, you must have no hesitation in meeting. Here again, I remember in the Election Commission, I used to get a lot of complaints addressed to me by name. And my office used to say, sir, you don't have to reply to these things. And the office, you can just give a direction, the office will reply. I said, no. If a letter is addressed to me by name, I would like to reply myself. I will, if it is addressed to me by designation, it's a different matter, the others can sign. When somebody has written to me, expecting me to read his letter and expecting me to act on that, I would like to sign my letters. So I introduced a system in the Election Commission, even in the Department of Company Affairs. Any personal letter written to me, I used to reply myself. That will give you some kind of a personal touch to your administration. These are not taught in your training schools or whatever it is, but it is innate, your humane approach that has to come out. The good, honest taxpayers have to be supported. Here again, there was an incident when an informant came and gave something to be placed at the place where the search was to be conducted. So my boss told me that I should place this in the place where the search is to be conducted. I refused. I said, I have got some basic principles. If the informant has brought it and if you think it is trustworthy, ask the informant to put it back in that place. I am not going to place it. I refuse to carry out that order. So if you are able to justify and if you are able to have some kind of a uniform principle, it should not be changing depending upon the person's concern, whether it is a boss or otherwise. You have to maintain a consistent stand and follow a principle of, adhering to the normal, ethical practices. I find there is no difficulty at all in being honest, in being efficient. It is only a humane touch that you have to bring in. As far as honesty is concerned, it is your own innate strength. So long as you do not support a clique, so long as you do not show your bias to somebody. In fact, I was mentioning recently a case where one of the senior officers asked me to take care of this particular taxpayer. I said, sir, certainly I will have it examined, but it will be a honest and good faith approach as far as the case is concerned. So if you can maintain that consistency right from the beginning till the end, all officers, seniors, colleagues, everybody will respect you. But do not change your stand depending upon the bosses. You should not.
Very, very correct, sir. Very correct, sir. Sir, earlier in the interaction, you had mentioned about your book. I think it was named Miracles of Democracy.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. So what was the motivation? Why a book? Like, it's very difficult to write a book. Writing a blog or an article is easy, but a book is difficult.
In fact, I have written it in the book itself. In fact, when the publisher wanted me to reveal some of the names of the juicy anecdotes I mentioned, I refused. I said, my intention is not to make money. My intention is to bring it to the notice of people, students of public administration, as well as those, junior civil servants, to know that what style I adopted. And the main purpose of the book was to indicate how you have to deal with the politicians, how you have to conduct yourself in civil service. In fact, if I am not mistaken, at least at that time, I was told all the chief commissioners were given a copy, where the department published a copy of the book and gave it to the chief commissioners for whatever use it may be. But the point is that the book was mainly to highlight how I dealt with very difficult politicians. When I was an undersecretary in the Ministry of Finance, I was undersecretary investigation. The minister once called me. In fact, his special assistant called me and said, the minister is angry with you, come. So I went into his room. It was Mr. K.R. Ganesh, who was from Andamans. And he said, who authorized you to put this paper in the file? There was a paper written to the minister. The minister had written on that, facts, please. So I had put it in the file. I said, sir, please tell me why I should not put this paper in the file. You have written facts, please. It has come through the member's office. It has come through the deputy secretary. And they're all numbered. In the secretariat, they are all docketed and your numbers are given. I said, if I do not put it in the file, I would be charged with destroying a public document. What was unfortunate was in that letter, there was some reference to the political party with which the petitioner had written to them. And the minister probably didn't want that to come onto the file. I told him, so long as you have written it facts, please, and it has come through the secretariat procedures, it cannot but be placed in the file. I was only, I think, hardly 30 years old at that time. Somehow I had the courage to tell him, because I was mentally prepared that if he fired, I would accept it and come back. But then immediately he said, okay, you can go. He didn't say anything more. So the point is, when you are meeting politicians, the politicians expect many things to be done because their view of problems is different. I still remember a member of parliament, a leftist member of parliament from West Bengal. He rang me up one day when I was Secretary Department of Company Affairs. Can I come and meet you? I said, no, why not? You can always come. What is the problem? You're a civil public servant. I am a public servant. He said, but nobody should know that I am coming to your room. I said, I refuse to do that. You are a well-known figure. You are a very popular member of parliament. All that I can assure you is that I will not talk about it to anybody. I will not ask, my secretary will not talk about your visit. He came and met me. First 5 minutes or 10 minutes, he talked about some of the companies in West Bengal and all that. Then suddenly asked me, what is your problem with your minister? I said, well, unfortunately, we speak the same language, but we have different views and different wavelengths. He said, can we be of some use in the parliament? Can we help you? I said, no, I know how to tackle this man and I don't need any outside help because there are some civil servants who have a tendency to go to the press. They have a tendency to go to other politicians or opposition party to seek some favor. You should never do that. So I told him, I have great respect for you and I appreciate your gesture, but I cannot disclose the details for discussion in the parliament. And I've mentioned again this in the book, and he had told me that this incident should not be disclosed, that his identity should not be disclosed. Till today, I have not disclosed it. And I hope I will not disclose it at all, because he is a very well-respected parliamentarian. And if you have a problem with a politician, tackle it directly. Don't go for any outside support. And ultimately, when the minister had to go, the government fell. One of the reasons for the withdrawal of support to the then coalition government of Mr. Vajpayee was my case. In fact, the chief minister had asked for my transfer from Department of Company Affairs. It had come in the paper and all that. That's why I'm disclosing it. And the government fell. And some of the favors that the politicians asked for, I mean, it is mysterious indeed. And when the government fell, the government came back to power. The new minister was Mr. Rangarajan Kumaramangalam. He said the Prime Minister's office has asked me to restore all your powers because it had been taken away by my predecessor. I said, sir, it's fine, I don't mind. I'll then bring the file with all the flags, I'll restore all your powers. Because the previous minister had taken away my powers and given the joint secretary's powers to me. So when I went to Mr. Rangarajan Kumaramangalam, then he made a very jocular remark. He told me, why not I give you more powers than what was given to you earlier? I said, it's up to you, sir. You're most welcome. You know why I want to give more powers? So that I don't have to see so many files. And if I want anything, I can always tell you. I said, sir, that depends upon what request you make. If your requests are reasonable, certainly it will be done. If it is not reasonable, it will not be done. Then said, you are giving me a typical yes minister's reply. I told him, yes, you have to respect the views of the civil servant. If you are able to appreciate that, certainly you can give me more powers, but I am not asking for more powers. It's up to you to decide. So this is an anecdote again to say that you have to be free and frank with the politicians. Don't ever think that, you have to be obedient or servile to them. And as I told you, throughout my career, I have never had any difficulty in tackling with any politician.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir, now we can start the open house. First, we can ask Sachi Chaudhary, ma'am. She has a question for you.
Yeah. How are you, Sachi?
Sachi, ma'am?
Hello? I think she has unmuted.
Sachi, ma'am, can you unmute yourself?
I am happy to see Bhanumati also. Congratulations, you got your promotion. You got your promotion recently. Congratulations. You can unmute yourself. You can unmute.
Yeah.
Oh, I see Mr. A.N. Misra also. So nice to see you. In fact, I must mention something about Mr. A.N. Misra before the question comes. He's one of the finest persons I worked with. And I think I'm really proud that I worked with him. And we had gone to Thailand together to solve a problem relating to Air India, I remember. What is more important is, in spite of 5 or 6 years senior to me, he had treated me almost like a colleague. And I think I have a great respect and admiration for him. This is the kind of tradition that we had in our service. It's very unfortunate that this kind of a tradition I get the impression is not continuing. All senior officers should respect the junior officers, guide them, monitor their, extend any help if it is required. And I'm delighted to be with, to have known Mr. Mishra, and he was good enough to invite me even after retirement to give a lecture in Bhubaneswar in memory of one of his relatives. And it is one of the finest experiences I've had with him.
Can we have Mishra sir, please?
Please go ahead. Please.
Yeah. Can we have a question from A.N. Mishra, sir? In fact, he's my uncle. What a coincidence, sir.
I didn't know.
Just a sweet coincidence.
I have no question, actually. It was a great delight to be a colleague with Mr. Krishnamurthy. As a matter of fact, I met him for the first time when I was commissioner in Orissa, and there was a write-off committee in which he and Mr. A.R. Rao, my previous batch, we three were constituted the committee. There I met Mr. Krishnamurthy for the first time. And then I found in him such a dynamic person, very unlike a typical income tax man. Such wide experience in everywhere. He had come from this Vizag shipyard. He had earlier, he was on deputation there and he had come back. And he brought into the meeting, I don't know how to describe the very pleasant time that we had during the meetings. And subsequently, of course, when we knew each other very well, we had the occasion to work together and sometimes in the same station. It was a wonderful experience. It was a joy simply to be associated with him throughout my career. Thank you, Mr. Krishnamurthy.
Thank you. I must add one more thing. I think I can disclose this if you don't mistake me. He had seen my confidential reports and he didn't say anything more than that. He said, your reports are very good. Then later on, after my, I would say I was not very delighted when I had to supersede some officers, but he told me, you had probably the best outstanding reports I have ever seen, he told me. And Mr. M.R. Sivaraman, who was the revenue secretary who attended the DPC, he told me that even IAS officers do not have this kind of an outstanding report from different persons. But I must say, Mr. Mishra told me only one sentence that your reports are excellent. That's what he said. He didn't give me the details. I wish I had asked him more details, but I did not. Because he was senior to me, I didn't have the courage to ask him the details.
But you deserved all those reports, Mr. Krishnamurthy. Not somebody has given you. It is what you richly deserve for your work, performance, and outlook towards service.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Sir, we have a young officer, Basuki Jha. Can I request Basuki, please, to ask her question? Her question. Basuki, please. Can you unmute yourself and ask the question? Okay, I'm asking it on behalf of Basuki. Sir, I have a question. My name is Basuki Jha. I am 2017 batch. My question is, during current times, when both specialization as well as diversification of profile is required, how do we as a department diversify ourselves to face future challenges of career bureaucracy and serve the country?
One little bit of advice I would give to all young officers is, if there is a new assignment coming to you, do not run away from it. I'll tell you again an anecdote. One of our senior officers, who should have become chairman later on, it's a lady officer, he rang me up and asked me that she missed the chairmanship, but she was offered member of SEBI. And she told me, I am afraid of taking up that post. I told her, why? You should go ahead and take up that post. I don't know anything about stock market. I said, when I became election commissioner, I didn't know anything about election commission law or anything. I've not even done an election job. And it is innately given to an opportunity given to you, and it is given to you, don't say no, unless and until there is extraordinary reason for it. If she would have become if not chairman, at least she would have been a full-time member, but she declined it. She was afraid of accepting new responsibilities. So if you really want diversification, every change that is available to you, don't say no. Let me tell you again, when I was undersecretary in the Department of Revenue, I was selected as deputy secretary in the Ministry of Shipping. And the secretary of Ministry of Shipping, Mr. Mishra, knows he was chief secretary of Orissa, Mr. M. Ramakrishnaya. So I was selected, I went and joined. I asked him, sir, why did you select me? I asked him. Is it that, that I'm sure there must have been some other names, and how did you select? Then he gave me a very organized reason. He said 3 officers' names came. One was an IAS officer. He didn't have any finance background. Another was a central secretariat officer. he didn't have any exposure to finance, and you are the only person who had finance exposure, and I selected you. But unfortunately, one of our departmental officers thought that I had pulled up this deputation because of some influence. It is not so. I was just selected by him. But I like to say here is that whenever you have an opportunity, a deputation offer or a different kind of a job, do not say no. Here again, for example, when I was posted as IAC audit in Chennai after my deputation, the impression was that IAC audit post is not useless post. It was not considered as a very important post. But I found it was very interesting to learn law, the law that we did not very much learn. In course of time, when you are in IAC audit, you come across many audit objections and you learn the intricacies of income tax law. So every opportunity that you get in life is a lesson, a learning curve for you, and never say no to it. Then in addition to that, do not become too technical in your work. There was one chairman of our Central Board of Directors, I don't want to mention the name. He used to write all the judgments in a notebook and then keep it with himself. The chairman, Central Board of Directors, need not familiarize himself with every case law. He is supposed to be an administrator of the department. And if you are going to interfere in all these individual cases on the basis of the jottings you have made on the IPRs and so on, you are not doing your chairman's job. So you must know how much of technical knowledge you have and how much of non-technical knowledge you ought to have. So when you do your work over a period of time, you will realize it as you climb up the ladder that sometimes common sense is more useful in dealing with issues. Similarly, whenever there is an opportunity for you to learn something other than income tax, learn it. It will come to you, it will be of some use to you at a later date. It may not be of immediate use, but every opportunity you get, try to learn a new thing, and you will find it useful at an appropriate time.
Thank you, sir. In fact, what you said is very correct. And also, sir, common sense is unfortunately uncommon. So we must learn to develop common sense too. Sir, we have a question from N. Sankaran, sir. N. Sankaran, sir, can you unmute yourself and ask, please? N. Sankaran, sir, please unmute and ask.
Yeah, I can see him. Yeah, how are you, Shankaran? You have to unmute. You have to unmute yourself.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah. Good afternoon. How are you?
I am fine, sir. Sir.
He was my probationer, of course.
Yes, sir. That is, we are very happy, sir. Our batch was trained by you in NADT in the year 1984, and you were. I am very happy that you were my first commissioner in the field, Commissioner of Income Tax 2 Madras at that time, Commissioner of Income Tax 2 Madras, sir. And you are our role model for your significant contributions in various assignments and your stellar qualities, sir. We are very happy, and we would like to emulate your stellar qualities, sir. And my question is, like, for us, you are our role model, and who is your role model from Indian, Indian Revenue Service, and can you share with us their significant contributions to the department, sir?
Yeah, I have more than one role model. The first person was Mr. Badami, under whom I was trained.
Right, sir.
The second one is Mr. C.C. Ganapati, who was our director of training.
Right, sir.
The third person, he's sitting here, Mr. A.N. Misra.
Very good, sir.
He has also been influencing me in shaping my career.
Right.
So I must say that there were more than one model in the service, and I am grateful to all of them. In fact, we had Mr. Rathore, we had Mr. Ramamurthy, we had many senior officers who distinguished themselves. But then some of these officers had humane qualities. That's what is more important. When you climb up the ladder in your career, you have to treat your officers, your public, much more humanely than probably many officers do it. For example, I still remember one of the young officers who came to meet a chief commissioner. When I was sitting along with him, he didn't even offer him a seat. I said, please sit down. He was hesitating to sit down. I said, you sit down. I'm telling you, sit down. And I told this particular commissioner, he's going to be a chief commissioner one day. Why are you not offering him a seat? So this is the kind of, you have to be humane in your approach. That is very important. I'm sure young officers will learn a lot of things from such gestures that we make, because ultimately administration is not merely a administration of technical knowledge. Technical knowledge is important, but up to a point. Thereafter, you have to distinguish yourself by your conduct, by your orders. Somehow, for example, I still remember Mr. A.N. Mishra was mentioning about a committee where the question was whether we should have 3 departmental exams or 2 departmental exams. We came to the conclusion it should be only 2 departments. There was no need for a 3rd departmental exam. So you have to understand the plight. You should display your empathy and find out what is the ultimate purpose. We want good officers. The good officers need not be achieved, and we cannot reach that goal by just having too many exams. You have to expose them to gestures. We have to expose them to quick decisions. I can still remember a very interesting anecdote which I heard from Mr. I.C. Puri, who was personal secretary to Mr. Punjab Chief Minister, Mr. Hello. Once he narrated an incident. I believe the Chief Minister and Mr. I.C. Puri were traveling in a car from Delhi to Chandigarh. And I believe 2 mice tried to cross the road. One mouse got killed, the other mouse escaped. The Chief Minister asked Mr. I.C. Puri, how do you explain this? And he said, sir, like a typical Hindu, he said, one must have done more sins and got killed. No, I want an administrator's reply. So he said, one took the decision at the right time to cross, the other did not, it got vacillated. So what is important is to take a commonsensical and quick decision whenever big problems come to you. And you have to display your distinguishing feature. In every work that you do, you can show a distinguishing feature different from others. You have to apply your mind so that you can do things differently. So this is what I would say, that ultimately the role models are there to tell us how to be effective senior officers.
Thanks, sir. Thank you very much, sir, sharing the rare qualities which you have observed in the seniors, and we have also observed remarkable qualities in you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
I also saw Mr. Amaresh Shukla, who was one of my probationers, and an incident I think I must mention, though I will not reveal the name. He was having a serious problem. He's now in, I think he has retired from, or he's in the settlement commission in Bombay, and he was in very serious difficulty in Madhya Pradesh. So one day he rang me up and saying that, sir, I'm having a problem. Can I be brought to Bombay and under you? So when the chairman at that time was Mr. T.S. Srinivasan, another noble character, member of Mr. Mishra's batchmate. He's a batchmate of Mr. Mishra. And I requested him, can he be transferred? He said, what is the reason? So I explained to him the reason, that he was under difficult circumstances. He was being forced to do certain things which he didn't want to do it. Mr. Srinivasan was good enough to transfer him to Bombay. The question was, we had to allot him to one of the chief commissioners. I was the chief commissioner. I said, he can be given to me. But at that time, of course, the first chief commissioner was, I may not mention the name. He said, why should he be posted to you? I'll take him to some other place. I said, fine, if you don't want to use, but I would like to exercise a choice. If you are giving me, I will take it. And he has done very well in the service. And some of the best pharmaceutical company assessments were done when he was the person concerned there as a DC assessment. And what I again want to say is that senior officers and junior officers need to be so much in understanding of the problems of the officers to help. So that's how Mr. Shukla escaped an adverse confidential character role. If he had continued there, he might have had a problem.
Thank you so much, sir. Anand Rajan, sir, would you like to ask something, sir? Sir, you have met sir when you were in the Honorable Prime Minister's office.
Yeah, I have an interesting anecdote with Mr. Anand Raj.
Sir, he's there.
Like when I was, I saw him. But yeah, Mr. Anand Rajan was in the Prime Minister's office when I was being considered for election commission post. I was summoned by the Prime Minister's Prime Minister, and then I was with the Prime Minister for about 15-20 minutes. After that, the Prime Minister, actually, the incident happened like this. Mr. Brijesh Mishra, who was the Principal Secretary to the Prime Minister, called me one day and said, how about becoming election commissioner? So I asked him, sir, are you sure I'm the right person for the job? I said, as far as the government is concerned, we are certain that you are the right person, you have tackled well, and we feel that you can be a good election commissioner. I thought I was going to SEBI, I told him, no, the SEBI's post, the person incumbent was being given an extension, so you are being considered for election commission. He said, can you give me some time? So he gave me a couple of hours. So I said, I'll have a word with my wife because she's the asthmatic patient. She could not live in Delhi during winter. I just wanted to have a word with her. Then I said, Mr. Mishra said, if you reply by 3 o'clock, the Prime Minister will see you at 4 o'clock. So I replied to Mr. Mishra that I will go ahead with the job. Then Mr. Anandarajan was there in the Prime Minister's office. I came out of the Prime Minister's room and said, Prime Minister talked to me, but he never mentioned anything about election. What is the significance in this? Then Anandarajan explained to me that they had made up their mind in appointing me, and he also explained to me the order of precedence, warrant of precedence to the status of the election commission, and he said you should not hesitate in accepting the post. So I did meet Mr. Anandarajan, and I was very happy to have known him, and I'm glad that he's back in the department now.
Thank you, sir. In fact, you have already answered my question, so I no longer have a question, unfortunately. But sir, it's been a real pleasure interacting with you over this forum. I mean, the kind of trailblazing career that you've had, I can't think of any other names. But I'm also very glad to see that Mr. Mishra is here, A.N. Mishra, and to note that he's looking the same he was looking 20
Yes, in fact, that is a compliment to him.
ago.
Age does not. Shakespeare said about Helen. Shakespeare said, age does not wither her beauty. Mr. A.N. Mishra maintains his health so well, and I wish him sound health and long life to inspire all the youngsters.
So the only thing I wanted to say is many of the things that you said, I mean, they are exactly the things which I also think about, working outside the department. Maintaining your impartiality and welcoming change, accepting new assignments. And I have tried to do that to some extent and mostly met with success. So I identify with all of those things which you have said today. The only question I was going to ask was, when you met the PM, what did he say to you and what did you say to him? And Mr. Vajpayee specifically, with whom I worked. And what is your impression of him as a PM? That was the question I was going to ask.
Well, I think it was one of the finest prime ministers, because I have seen 4 or 5 prime ministers during my career. And I have a number of anecdotes regarding him, but when the meeting that I had with him, he was talking about my service and my experience and things like that. Then the last advice he gave to me was, and of course the cabinet secretary was my batchmate, Mr. Prabhat Kumar. So I told him I'm the batchmate of Mr. Prabhat Kumar and so on. And ultimately, I asked him, do you have any advice to give me?
Sir.
He said, parties will come and go, but as an election, not in that meeting, it was in another meeting. Actually, after I took over, I met him. He said, parties may come and go, but you have a duty to protect democracy in India. This is what he said, and I admire him. And there was another incident on the day I took over as Chief Election Commissioner. I called on him to show my courtesy. And in the press meet, when I assumed charge, the one question was asked to me about the government spending a lot of money for during the election period for electoral gains. So I had mentioned, I advised all the governments, state governments and the central government, to refrain from using taxpayers' funds for electoral gains. So when I met him in the evening, he said, "Aapne kamal kar diya." I said, "What happened, sir?" Then he said, "You mentioned this. Now the pressmen are asking me to comment on this." I said, "Sir, I have clearly mentioned it is both central government and the state government. And I had never mentioned about any particular government or particular advertisement activity." He said, "No, don't worry about it. I'll tackle it. I can meet them. I have no problem on that." what I liked in him in the cabinet meetings that I attended as Secretary Department of Company Affairs, he used to be very, very, warm and friendly. And I still remember one incident when I had a difference with my minister. The cabinet note came for amending the company law. My minister was against it, and I was supporting it. So Mr. Yashwant Sinha and Mr. Kumaramangalam and one or two other people, they were supporting the move, but my minister was against the amendment to the company law. What was significant is, perhaps, I don't know how far it is correct, in the cabinet meeting, Mr. Yashwant Sinha mentioned that he is a company affairs secretary, let us hear his views. Then I explained to them that how these amendments to the company law will bring about changes which are favorable to the investment climate of this country, and we should go ahead. The minister said, I have strong reservations and I would not support this move. Mr. Vajpayee was advised, of course, by his secretary and the cabinet secretary to constitute a small committee of ministers, with including my minister, Mr. Yashwant Sinha, Mr. Rangarajan Kumaramangalam, and asked to submit a report within 3 days. A cabinet meeting was held again after 3 days, when they said that they will recommend all the changes. My minister did not attend the meeting. So in the meeting, when it came, he said, since you have reservation, but since the majority in the cabinet in the cabinet committee and the majority in the cabinet feel that these changes are necessary, we will go ahead with these amendments. So it's a very interesting experience that in a cabinet meeting, I could speak against my own minister.
Sir, thank you very much, sir. That was really
Thank
very
you.
insightful.
Thank you. Nice to see you, Anandarajan.
Thank you.
Great pleasure to see you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. How are you keeping?
Very fine, sir. Very fine. Back in the department now after a stint in the defense ministry.
Very good. May God bless you all. And it has been a rich and rewarding experience to me personally.
Thank you,
Sir. Sir, we have a lot of questions more, but since time is short, we'll take up some questions on email with you also, which we would like you to reply on email so that we'll share. Sir, one question from PK Dash, sir, before we start winding up.
Okay,
PK Dash, our former member CBDT who retired just recently.
Certainly.
PK Dash, sir, please unmute and ask. Prasanna, sir, please.
Please ask some young officers are there. Please ask them 1 or 2 questions, then I'll take up. Sir, if you don't mind, we'll take another 5 minutes, sir, to finish up.
Oh,
sir,
sure,
if
I
you
have
don't
no
mind.
problem. I'm absolutely
perfect.
So please, the young officers, let them ask the question, then I'll come.
Perfect, sir. Perfect.
As I mentioned yesterday, I had a fever, but today I'm normal. I have no problem.
Sir,
perfect. Perfect.
Ji.
So, Poonam, would you like to ask? Poonam Rai?
Yes,
Poonam
please.
is here. Yeah,
Yes,
Poonam, please. Yeah.
Yes. Good afternoon, sir.
Very good afternoon.
Yes, sir. I wanted to ask you regarding the synergy between the deadpan, emotionless role of a tax administrator versus the humane approach that you talked about. So, how would you, sir, advise us, and how far has it been possible for you in your long career to achieve it, sir?
Can you repeat the question? I'm not able to follow it correctly.
Okay, sir. Sir, I wanted to inquire, or maybe if you could throw some light on creating a synergy between the perceived role of the tax administrator as emotionless deadpan role versus the humane approach that you were talking about in this webinar, sir. So, how far has it been possible for you, and what would you advise us in it?
Well, I'm not sure whether I really understood your question, but the point is, every individual officer has his own style of functioning.
Right.
And there are challenges, different challenges to each of these officers. And particularly in a department like ours, where, there are so many subtle as well as indirect influences challenging your impartiality, challenging your integrity and your own personal style of functioning. But my advice on the basis of my own experience is that go by your own conscience. You can certainly take use of others, you can listen to others, but ultimately the decision has to be taken by you. and you have the best friend in you, your own conscience. If you can listen to your conscience, you can certainly take the right decision. In fact, when I was in the election commission, I used to have sometimes very difficult decisions to be taken. I can't even consult because it used to be so confidential. So what I used to do, maybe it was my style, I used to go and sit in my puja room for 5 minutes.
Wow.
And then clearly think about what I should do.
Yeah.
After 5 minutes, I would have got the answer to do what to do. So similarly, what you have to do is go by your own conscience. While you can certainly seek support from your friends or from your colleagues, but ultimately the responsibility is with you. And I do not think you can get a better friend than your own conscience.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Thank you so much, sir. That's an advice for life. Thank you.
Thank
Sir,
you.
Arihant Singhi, please. Arihant Singhi.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, sir. Yes,
Good
sir.
afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
Arihant Singhi, belonging to 2017 batch.
Okay.
Sir, many times in income tax department, we tend to narrow down our horizon to micro level. However, when you became secretary or go to higher posts, your ideas must be politically acceptable, socially desirable, technologically feasible, financially viable, and administratively doable.
Yeah.
Sir, what are your suggestions to broaden our horizons as individuals and as departments?
Well, as far as when you go up the ladder in the department, you have certainly more complex problems coming before you for a solution. Here again, my own suggestion would be that have a absolutely impartial analysis of the problem. Don't be led by what others say. But certainly, others have a right to say that. You can certainly listen to them. For example, I still remember that when Mr. Manmohan Singh was the finance minister, we used to make a lot of suggestions for the budget. And the IAS officers were secretaries in the government, finance secretary, the expenditure secretary, the economic affairs secretary. Sometimes they will throw our ideas to the dustbin. They won't even accept it. But if you have the guts, you must differ, insist on you being heard. Because many times our senior officers in the department, the members, as well as the chairman of the Central Board of Direct Taxes, they meekly accept the overruling done by senior officers. But that should not be done. You have to assert your authority and tell them that I'm entitled to give my view. It is for you to accept it or not. But before you speak, two things you have to ensure. You are sure on your facts and you are articulate. Don't beat around the bush. Be precise on what you say, and you forcefully put it forward before them. They may accept it or they may reject it, doesn't matter. But you must make them hear you. So when you climb up the ladder of the service, there will be many opportunities for you to express your views. Don't keep quiet. Don't think that that your views will not be accepted or will be ignored and so on. Doesn't matter. But you should have satisfy your own conscience. Say that I did my bit, whether it is acceptable or not. So even on the file, when you write on the files, you don't have to be suave or anything. You have to be very, very clear in your thinking. Record your views in a very articulated manner, and you will find one day somebody will have a look at your notings and say, well, here is a man who took a right decision. So you don't have to be cowed down by others. And particularly being a central service, sometimes people may not listen to you. But you have to make it very clear that even though you belong to a central service, you are as intelligent and as efficient as any other civil service officer.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Sir, actually, Sachi madam also wanted to ask, but there are some technical glitches.
Okay.
So, Sachi madam wanted to ask, but somehow it's not possible. Deepak, can Deepak please unmute and ask? Deepak, is Deepak here?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Though you're not, your picture is not coming, I can hear you. Okay.
Okay, sir. Sir, I am a probationer of NADT. I'm currently undergoing training in NADT. So I have just stepped into the world of income tax department. My question is, sir, that can we have a more positive and fair approach towards the empanelment of IRS officers to the joint secretary level and also to the other departments on deputation? Because earlier, we don't get information like how they are being recruited to the higher the ladder. So if you could give the insights on it, because you have been to the highest level of the constitutional post, you can give some light on it, sir.
Now, as far as the empanelment is concerned, I think things have improved a lot. When we were in the department, there was unfair discrimination against our service. That somehow there was an impression that we should not be allowed to hold top positions. But I find that there is a lot of improvement in the matter. The empanelment is done by a committee of, depending upon the level, if it is for a deputy secretary or director level, I think the officers of the rank of additional secretary and all, they sit in the empanelment committee. Sometimes they are done on the file, sometimes they are done, the empanelment is done by the committee personally meeting and then discussing the names. So my own impression is probably things have improved so much now that there is a reasonable empanelment. Maybe at the highest level, the secretary level or additional secretary level, still there is some kind of a discrimination. But in a world of inequalities, these are bound to happen. But in spite of these inequalities, sometimes you are able to overcome. In fact, I remember Mr. Tarun Das, who was in the CII, he asked me, how did you get into secretary's panel? Normally, the civil service people are not considered, except probably some IA and AS officers. I said, normally they say, as far as women are concerned, they say it is glass ceiling for top positions. But for central service officers, it is not glass ceiling, it is iron ceiling, because there is a definite prejudice against empanelment of officers from other services. But in spite of that, it has happened, means it is because of, not because of me, it is because of some superior power, I told him. So we have to only trust in our own efficient service and integrity, and hoping that it will be rewarded in course of time. In fact, I thought Mr. P.K. Das would have become secretary to the government because he had all the ingredients. He had become additional secretary. For example, if you are given a joint secretary or deputy secretary's post, do not say no, because for becoming a secretary, normally they expect you to hold under secretary, deputy secretary, or director or joint secretary's post or additional secretary. Suppose when I was Chief Commissioner of Income Tax Bombay, when they offered me additional secretary's post, my colleagues said, don't join. Well, CC Bombay is more powerful than additional secretary in expenditure. I said, no, whatever that comes to me in the way, I will not say no, I will go and join additional secretary. But if I had said no to the additional secretaryship, I would never have become secretary, because you should have been an additional secretary to become a secretary. Mr. Das had fulfilled all this, and in spite of that, he missed it because I think stars were not favorable to him. But I'm sure there are better compensations coming for him.
Sir, right, sir, very true. Sir, Sachi ma'am will try. We are trying out via media. Vikram, can you just coordinate with Sachi ma'am, please?
Yeah, Sachi ma'am, can you speak now? Yeah, can you speak? Yeah, we are able to hear you.
I'm speaking on the other phone. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Can you speak now?
No, there is echo. There is echo because probably she has two instruments nearby.
No, TV should be closed.
Yeah. No, there is echo from the system. Okay, Ritesh, can I ask one question to sir?
Yes, sir, please.
Yeah. Sir, good morning, and very nice to see you, sir. Sir was our course director when we were probationers. And I personally am grateful to him because one incident I remember, I had put a cartoon. I used to draw cartoons those days. So I had put a cartoon in the notice board of the administrative block. And some lady probationers took Amish. And they complained to the DG that this is mischievous, and we take note of this. And Mr. Krishnamurthy had put a notice that whoever has done this cartoon has to meet me by evening. Of course, in the cartoon there was no name, so it was only so I could have jolly well said it is not done by me. So the artist in me was saying, how can you disown this? If it is your cartoon, you must go and meet him. So I was very scared because those days Mr. Appu, Mr. BK Singh was terminated from the service. He was our batchmate from IS. He was terminated because of some misbehavior with the lady or somebody. So we are very scared. I was very scared, but I had the courage to go and meet him. Sir, yes, this cartoon is done by me, but I didn't have any intention of insulting anybody. If somebody has taken amiss, I will go and apologize to her. So it is not a very, I have not done anything intentionally. He said, no, you don't have to apologize. You have admitted, it's okay, you go. So that was the incident I remember, and he tackled in his own way, and I still continued in the service. So that was one incident. And sir, I have one question regarding discrimination in the service you are raising, sir. Probably after your empanelment, now the cabinet secretary has passed in 2001 or 2, I don't remember, one instruction, one page instruction that the central services will be eligible for empanelment as additional secretary or secretary only after 2 years of their batch in IS have been empaneled. So this is not applicable to IPS or IFS. Even forest service is not applicable. It's only applicable to central services. This instruction has been passed, one page note. The central staffing scheme is a booklet which contains almost 30 pages, which admits that the variety of service inputs from various services is the resident data for the central staffing scheme. Whereas in this one page instruction, they have just negated the entire logic of the central staffing scheme.
Yeah, I agree. In fact, this discrimination was there even during our time. I think this must be challenged. I remember somebody was planning to go to the court on this subject. I think we must challenge it in a court and see that it is struck down, because I see no reason why there should be a discrimination.
No, sir. IRS Association made a representation to Prime Minister's office.
Okay, representation is step 1. Step 2, you must challenge it in the court.
Sir, I think that's all my question about that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Yes, Sachi, you are back now. Can you hear?
No, sir.
You have to unmute it. You are still muting it. You unmute it.
I am not able to guide her as to how to unmute because only
if you press it, you will get you have a red signal. You have to press that, click it, and she's not able to do that. Okay, I think I'll talk to her. Don't worry, I'll talk to her.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sir, we have had a wonderful meeting today. We would like you to conclude, sir, with just one small thing. What is your message for all of us, sir?
Well, all that I would say is I'm grateful to all the seniors who have been very nice to me. They have never ever pulled me up for any decision I had taken. But all that I can say is that I enjoyed working in the income tax department. I had no hesitation to go out of the department whenever an opportunity came to me. And whenever a new job came to me, I could pick up the threads in a fairly short period and show to them that we can also work as efficiently as others. And the young officers' message to the young officers is, be nice to your juniors, be nice to respect your seniors, but take your own decision. Don't be guided by others. And as far as honesty and efficiency is concerned, reward will come in course of time. It may be in different form. Even happiness at home is equally important. Because sometimes you may be doing very well in the service, but you may not be happy at home. So God has His own ways of rewarding you. Don't be frustrated. Take life as it comes. And I will only quote Shakespeare when he said, "There is a divinity that shapes our ends, rough hew them what we will." So do your job, get your rewards. If you have not got the rewards according to your expectations, don't regret, don't frustrate yourself. Face life as it comes. And I'm grateful to all of you for giving me this opportunity. And I am proud to have been in the Indian Revenue Service. And I will always cherish very fond memories of meeting many nice persons in the service and outside the service as well. But ultimately, your own satisfaction depends upon your contentment. Never feel unhappy about whatever you have had. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't happen. You have to accept life as it comes.
Thank you so much, sir. I request everyone to kindly unmute and clap for sir. All please unmute.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. We'll close the meeting now.
Goodbye.
Thank you so much, sir. And we'll continue the tradition. Thank you, sir.